I was 15 when I first understood that some families quietly decide which child will carry all the weight. Until then, I believed every home worked the same way. Parents were strict sometimes. Siblings argued. But at the end of the day, everyone was protected. I did not know that protection could be selective. We lived in a narrow blue house on a quiet street in Cleveland, America. The house had white porch rails that my mother scrubbed every spring and a red mailbox she insisted on repainting every year, even when the color had barely faded. From the outside, people waved when they passed. Neighbors said we were lucky. Inside, the air always felt tight. Conversations ended quickly. Doors closed too softly. Felt like walking on thin glass. My name is Emily, and I was the younger child. My older brother Ryan was 2 years ahead of me, taller, louder, and full of confidence. He had a way of speaking that sounded certain even when he was wrong. My parents admired that. When Ryan brought home good grades, my father framed the paper and hung it in the hallway. When he scored a goal, my mother told the story to anyone who would listen. When I did well, the praise was short and quiet, like it needed to end quickly. First, the blame was small. If a glass was left on the counter, Ryan would glance at me. If crumbs were on the floor, my father would call my name from the other room. I learned to clean up before anyone noticed. I learned to apologize even when I was unsure what I had done. Then things began to disappear. A silver watch my father kept in his desk drawer went missing. $40 vanished from his wallet. A glass photo frame cracked and fell one afternoon when no one was in the room. Every time, Ryan sighed deeply, as if disappointed rather than angry. He would shake his head and say my name slowly. "Emily doesn't pay attention," he would say. "She's careless," he added more than once. My father accepted those words without question. He would look at me with a tight jaw and ask why I kept causing problems. I tried to explain that I had not touched those things, but the words felt weak when Ryan spoke so confidently. My mother stayed quiet. She folded laundry or wiped the counter, eyes down, saying nothing. I started to doubt myself. I wondered if I really was careless. Checked my pockets. I replayed my steps. I tried to remember every moment of the day. The more I tried to be careful, the more mistakes I was accused of making. The night everything broke was cold and wet. Rain tapped against the windows, and the house smelled faintly of dinner and dust. We were all in the living room when the photo frame shattered. It hit the floor with a sharp sound that cut through the quiet. Froze. I had not been near it. I knew that. My hands were empty. Ryan stood up slowly, crossed his arms and said, "She was in here earlier." My father's face changed instantly. His voice rose before I could speak. He shouted so loud that my ears rang. I tried to explain, but my voice shook. I could not get the words out fast enough. Each sentence sounded like an excuse, even though it was the truth. I felt something snap inside my chest. I grabbed my coat and ran out the front door into the rain. The cold soaked through my clothes in minutes. I walked with no direction, just away. I did not take my phone. I did not know where I was going. I only knew I could not stay. When I finally came back hours later, my shoes were soaked and my hands were numb. I knocked softly. My father opened the door just enough to look at me. "If you walk out like that again," he said, "don't bother coming back." He closed the door. I went to my room and packed a backpack. Just the basics. Notebook. My school ID. I slept with it beside my bed, fully dressed, afraid that morning would bring another accusation. From that night on, I lived in a constant state of waiting. Waiting for the next thing to break. Waiting for the next missing dollar. Waiting for Ryan's sigh and my father's anger. I moved carefully through the house, like a guest who had overstayed her welcome. I did not know yet that this was only the beginning. But even then, at 15, I understood one thing clearly. In my family, I had already been chosen. 2 weeks after the night I ran into the rain, Ryan said I had stolen $100 from my father's wallet. He said it calmly, like he was reporting the weather. I remember standing in the kitchen, staring at the floor tiles, waiting for my father to ask me if it was true. He did not. He told me to get my things and leave. There was no argument, no discussion. My father stood by the counter with his arms crossed, his face set hard. My mother hovered near the sink, her back turned, scrubbing a cup that was already clean. Ryan leaned against the doorway, watching me with an almost bored look. I tried to speak, but my voice felt trapped in my throat. I went to my room, grabbed the backpack I had kept ready, and walked out the front door. It was late afternoon, and the sky was gray. I walked until my legs hurt, then called my friend Megan from a gas station. She lived with her family in a small brick house near Columbus, about an hour away. Her mother answered the phone and told me to come right away. When I arrived, they did not ask many questions. Megan's mother handed me dry clothes and a towel. Her father made soup. Megan showed me a small guest room with a twin bed and a lamp that gave off soft yellow light. No one yelled. No one accused me of anything. That silence felt strange, like my ears were still ringing from a noise that was no longer there. The first night I barely slept. I expected the door to open suddenly. I expected someone to tell me I had done something wrong. Instead, morning came quietly. Megan's mother knocked gently and asked if I wanted breakfast. I almost cried at the sound of her voice. Days passed. I went to school from Megan's house. Her parents signed forms and made space for me without making me feel like a burden. I helped with the dishes, folded laundry. I tried to be perfect, afraid that even here I might be asked to leave. After a few days, my mother called. Her voice sounded tired, softer than usual. She said my father had calmed down. She said it was better if I came home. She said families fight, but they stay together. I wanted to believe her. I missed my room. I missed the familiar walls, even if they had never felt safe. I went back on a Friday evening. The house looked the same. The blue paint, the porch rails, the red mailbox. I let myself in quietly. The hallway was dark, but light spilled from the kitchen. I stopped when I heard laughter. My father was talking. His voice carried easily. She needed to learn a lesson, he said. I threw her right out, he added, sounding proud. Ryan laughed. Not surprised. Not uncomfortable. Just amused. I stood there, frozen. My heart felt heavy, like it had dropped into my stomach. I realized then that my leaving had not scared them. It had entertained them. I heard a small sound behind me. My mother stood in the doorway to the dining room, holding a plate. She had clearly heard everything. For a moment she did not move. Her face changed in a way I had never seen before. Not anger. Not fear. Awareness. She did not say anything. She just looked at me, then at them. That night, she was kinder to me than she had been in years. She asked if I was hungry. She asked if I was tired. My father barely spoke to me. Ryan avoided my eyes. For a short time I thought maybe things would change. They did not. A week later, proof surfaced that Ryan had lied about the missing money. My father found the cash in Ryan's jacket pocket. I watched as my father stared at it, silent. I waited for an apology. I waited for him to say my name gently. Instead, he said, "This stays in the family." My mother nodded quickly. Ryan shrugged and said it was a misunderstanding. That was it. No apology. No admission. No protection. The message was clear. The truth mattered less than keeping peace. And peace meant keeping me quiet. From that moment on, something inside me shifted. I stopped trying to explain myself. I stopped hoping someone would defend me. I started planning instead. Focused on school. I spent time at the library. I talked to a counselor who listened without interrupting. I learned that there were systems outside my house. Places where rules were written down and followed. Places where blame needed proof. Home, I became invisible. I moved through rooms without speaking. I counted the days until I could leave for good. My mother tried in small ways to reach me. But she never stood up fully. She never chose me out loud. And I understood why. But understanding did not make it hurt less. That was the moment I stopped waiting for fairness from my family. And it was the moment I started looking for it somewhere else. School became the only place where I could breathe. The halls were loud, crowded, and far from perfect, but they were predictable. Rules existed. Words mattered. Proof mattered. I stayed late in the library almost every day, not because I loved studying, but because it meant I did not have to go home right away. One afternoon, my grades slipped just enough for a counselor to notice. Her name was Mrs. Carter. She asked me to sit down and talk. First, I gave short answers. I said I was tired. I said things were stressful at home. She did not push, but she did not let it go either. She listened in a way that felt steady, not rushed. Slowly, the truth came out. I told her about the accusations, the money, the way my brother always spoke before I could. The night I was told not to come back. My hands shook as I talked, but she did not look surprised. She nodded, took notes, and told me something I had never heard before. "This is not your fault," she said. Those words landed harder than any insult ever had. From there, things moved faster than I expected. Meetings followed. Forms were signed. I spoke to people whose job it was to help students who did not feel safe at home. Within weeks, I was placed in a small shared apartment through a school support program. It was not far from campus and not far from my old neighborhood either, but it felt like another world. The apartment had 2 small bedrooms and a narrow kitchen. The paint was plain and the furniture was old. But it was quiet. No one yelled. No one searched my bag or counted their money around me. I shared the space with another girl close to my age, and we learned quickly how to stay out of each other's way while still being kind. I worked weekends at a bookstore downtown. The owner paid me by the hour and trusted me with the register. I saved every dollar. I bought my own phone, paid my own bill, and replaced clothes only when they truly wore out. For the first time, the things I owned felt like proof that I existed. Life was not easy, but it was steady. I finished high school and kept moving forward. I did not call home. My parents did not visit. Sometimes my mother sent short messages asking if I was okay. I always said yes. It was simpler that way. Years passed. I enrolled in a local college and shared an apartment with friends. One afternoon, I helped a classmate submit an application for a transfer program. While reviewing the online system, I noticed something familiar. My brother Ryan's name appeared in archived records. Out of curiosity, I clicked. Something felt wrong immediately. Dates did not line up. Grades appeared where there should have been gaps. Approvals were listed from people who were not working at the school during those years. First, I thought it was a mistake. Then I looked deeper. The deeper I went, the clearer it became. Records had been changed. Documents edited. Emails forwarded and altered. It was not small. It was careful. Someone had worked hard to protect an image. Felt sick. Not because I wanted revenge, but because it confirmed everything I had lived through. The confidence. The certainty. The way Ryan always spoke was the truth bent toward him. I did not confront him. I did not call my parents. I saved everything. Screenshots, copies, email trails. I labeled files and stored them carefully. Waited. When the truth surfaced, it did not need my voice. Institutions investigated. Scholarships were reviewed. Programs cut ties quietly at first, then openly. The story spread without my help. The image my family had protected was cracked in public. That night, my phone would not stop ringing. My mother called first. Then my father. Then Ryan. Their voices sounded different now. Urgent. Afraid. They wanted to talk. They wanted explanations. They wanted me to help smooth things over. I sat on my bed in my small apartment, holding the phone, feeling strangely calm. 4 years, I had waited for someone to choose me. Now they needed me, and the power felt unfamiliar in my hands. I did not answer. I turned off the phone and sat in the quiet. I thought about the blue house in Cleveland, the red mailbox, and the girl who packed a backpack at 15, ready to disappear. I thought about the money I earned myself, the walls I paid for, the future that no longer felt like something borrowed. For the first time, I understood something clearly. I had already rebuilt my life without them. And nothing they said now could take that away. The calls started the same night. The truth became impossible to hide. My phone buzzed on the table while I was cooking dinner in my small apartment. I did not need to look to know who it was. I let it ring. Then it rang again. And again. My mother called first. Her voice message was short and tight. She said there had been a misunderstanding. She said people were asking questions. She said we needed to talk. An hour later my father called. He sounded angry, but underneath it was panic. He said this situation could ruin everything. He said I needed to explain myself. Ryan called last. His message was the longest. He said my silence was hurting the family. He said I owed them help. I sat on the edge of my bed and listened to the messages one by one. I felt no rush to answer. That surprised me. 4 years, their disappointment had ruled my breathing. Now it felt distant, like a storm I was watching from indoors. A week later I agreed to meet them once. Not at the house. Not anywhere private. We chose a quiet cafe near Denver, a neutral ground where no one could raise their voice without being heard. I arrived early and sat near the window. My hands were steady. They came together. My parents sat side by side. Ryan sat across from me. He looked smaller than I remembered. Well, sure. They talked first. They said the situation had gone too far. They said people were judging. They said it could all be fixed if I clarified a few things. My mother reached for my hand, then stopped halfway, unsure. I listened. I did not interrupt. When they finished, I took a breath. I am done begging, I said. The words felt clean. Honest. I did not break this, I continued. And I will not fix it. My father opened his mouth to argue, but I stood up before he could speak. I left money on the table for my coffee. I nodded once, politely, and walked out. Outside, the air was cool and clear. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, letting the quiet settle into me. I knew, without doubt, that this was the last time I would sit across from them and explain myself. After that, the calls slowed. Then they stopped. I focused on building something solid. I worked full-time, saved carefully. I avoided debt. Every decision I made felt intentional. After years of shared apartments, I bought a small house just outside Denver. It cost $210,000. Signing those papers felt unreal. No one helped me. No one questioned me. The keys were placed in my hand, and they stayed there. The house is modest. 2 bedrooms. Small yard. Light fills the living room in the afternoon. Every wall feels earned. Every repair reminds me that I can take care of myself. Sometimes, when work allows, I travel to Europe. I walk through unfamiliar streets, drink coffee in quiet squares, and remind myself how wide the world is. No one there knows my family story. No one expects me to play a role. I am just myself, and that is enough. My mother still sends a message once or twice a year. Holidays, birthdays. The words are careful, apologetic without saying sorry. I respond politely, briefly. I do not reopen doors I worked so hard to close. I used to wonder if walking away meant I was cruel. If setting boundaries made me cold. Over time I learned the truth. Boundaries are not punishments. They are protection. I am no longer the scapegoat. I am a woman who built a future with her own hands. And I never walk back.